A camera records as a man missing an eye throws up all over the podium he's chained to. On the opposite podium, a man is getting his tongue torn off. A blonde woman announces the next round is for $10 million and ignores the wounded man when he begs for the game to stop. Two guards bring out the men's relatives while the woman reminds them of the rules. If a man presses the red button, everybody loses another eye. If he presses blue, he saves himself and a loved one, killing his friend's family member instead. However, if they both choose blue, both of them lose relatives. Since both players end up pressing the blue button, the henchmen proceed to quickly kill both family members. Meanwhile, Jude won a holiday at a beautiful island and has brought his most important people. During the bus ride, Kate notices that her husband Andy is texting someone and worries he may be cheating on her again, but Andy explains he's just looking for restaurants in the area. When they arrive at the villa, Jude finds a note inviting the winner and a friend to attend a special meeting tomorrow at 12, signed by Devereaux Games. His girlfriend Heather keeps asking about some money he was supposed to receive from a project and Jude explains he'll get paid in a couple of months. They're about to kiss but the moment is interrupted when they hear Kate and Andy arguing in the other room. That afternoon Kate throws away her medicine, saying she needs to feel something for a change. She can't trust anything Andy says, but Andy swears he'll never lie to her again and hugs her. The next morning Andy thanks Jude for inviting his father Samuel since he needed the break after his mom died. Andy is also surprised that Jude invited his brother Henry since they don't like him very much. Jude explains he owes Henry money and asks Andy to keep the secret from Heather, who doesn't know Jude used to have a gambling problem. Then Jude assures Andy that Kate won't divorce him, she just needs some time. In the meantime, Heather and Kate talk about their relationships. Heather shares that Henry called her a gold digger in the plane but she swears she's not one. In fact, she's sure Jude is the one. At noon Jude invites Andy to come with him to the secret meeting. They find a beautiful building where some employees are waiting in line and don't react to any gesture made by Jude. Suddenly the officiator shows up and congratulates Jude for his progress on the app he's been playing, which is what got him this trip. Because of his wonderful performance, he's invited to play an exclusive game in person that will be watched by the top-tier patrons. He needs a second person to play it with, and the prize is $20 million. Andy thinks it sounds too good to be true and asks about the catch, so the officiator reveals the players will be bound to the table to force them to play the game until the very end and stop them from quitting. A creeped out Andy wants to leave, but Jude makes him stay and announces they'll play. The officiator then explains the first round will be relatively risk-free and if after that they don't want to continue, they can leave. The game will happen in the morning and the crew will pick the guys up. The next morning Jude and Andy return to the same mysterious place and the officiator takes them to a garden in the back, where a statue is recording everything for an audience. The guys are sat at a table with a divider in the middle that doesn't let them see each other's hands. The officiator appears to explain the game, which is called Us or Them. They'll be given a dilemma and they must press the blue button or the red button to choose their answers according to their own self-interest. There'll be some minutes before every vote so the players can discuss their choices. Since the first round is risk-free, the prize is $10,000. If both of them press red, they get $10,000 to split between them. If they press different buttons, then the blue player gets $20,000 and the red player will be in debt for that same amount. If they both press red, they'll both be in debt for $10,000. Jude and Andy agree that both of them choosing red is the easy answer, however Andy remembers that Jude owes Henry $9,000 and is worried he may betray him. Jude is insulted that Andy would think that after so many years of friendship and mocks him for his affair, so they end up arguing for several minutes. When time finally runs out, they both choose red and get the prize. The officiator makes them check their phones and they confirm the money is already in their accounts. Then the officiator reminds them they must choose if they want to quit now or keep playing, which means being bound to the table. Andy wants to leave but Jude wants to stay, especially when he hears that the next round is $100,000. Since Andy doesn't change his mind, the officiator explains that if they don't play she doesn't get paid, so she gives them a few minutes to discuss this in private. The guys keep on arguing and Jude ends up convincing Andy to play by mentioning his dead mother and pointing out that the money would help his father. The guys go back to the table and the employees take their phones plus their watches while the officiator says it's to avoid any distractions. Then Andy and Jude put their fingers through a strange contraption and metal bars fall on their wrists to bind them to the table. The metal is tighter than expected and Andy finds it creepy, but Jude thinks it's amusing. Next the officiator announces this round is for $100,000. If they both push the red button, they get that amount to share equally but they'll also lose a finger. The men can't believe what they just heard, but the officiator just keeps talking. If they press different buttons, the blue player will get all the money and keep their fingers, while the red player will be in debt for that amount and lose a finger. If they both press blue, they'll both be in debt and lose an entire hand. As the employees and the officiator say for those who watch, the discussion timer begins. Andy freaks out and wants to leave, but he can't remove his hand and the officiator reminds him he agreed to these rules. Jude thinks this will just be a trick for TV but Andy points out they're on an empty island in the middle of nowhere and nobody knows where they are, so anything could happen. He wonders what happens if he doesn't press any buttons and the officiator says they'll terminate him, but she doesn't clarify what she means. When Jude tries to calm his friend down again, another argument ensues and they start insulting each other again while bringing up the subject of the debt and the affair. The officiator reminds them time is running out so Andy makes Jude promise he'll press red too. When the time comes only Andy presses red while Jude presses blue. Andy begins yelling at his friend, who thinks it'll be fine. As the money is sent to Jude's account, the officiator tells Andy he's now in debt and the table contraption cuts a finger off. Seeing the punishment is real, Jude freaks out and tells Andy to keep the finger so a doctor can stitch it back later. A furious Andy throws the finger at Jude as he insults him and Jude apologizes, saying he only did it because he think it'd be fake. The officiator ignores their crying and announces the next round is for $500,000. The rules are the same as last time, but the debt will be higher since the prize is. Now Jude is freaking out too, but they still can't leave without finishing the game. They begin arguing over the colors and Andy gets even angrier when he realizes Jude is considering pressing blue because he wants the money for his project. Andy thinks Jude has never done anything selfless, so Jude reveals he knew Andy's mother had cancer 6 months before she told everyone else. He didn't tell anybody because she asked him to keep the secret, and Jude had to convince her to tell the rest of the family. She told Jude first because she needed someone to drive her to the hospital for appointments and wanted to protect her family from the hard times, not to mention she wanted a normal life. Jude thinks this was a selfless act, but Andy disagrees since his friend kept such important information from him and he only learned about the cancer 3 weeks before her death. The officiator announces time's up and the guys make their choice. Despite their argument, they both press red, so Andy loses another finger and Jude loses his first. He puts it away in his pocket as he yells in pain. Andy takes his wedding ring from the fallen finger and manages to put it on his healthy hand. Then the officiator tells them the money is in their account but refuses to say how many rounds are left. The next round is for $1 million and the henchmen bring out Henry and Samuel for it. They've been tied up and are now held at gunpoint. If both players press red, they get the money to share but their loved ones will get their eyes burnt out. If the players choose different colors, then the blue player receives all the money and their loved one isn't hurt while the red player will be in debt for the same amount and their loved one will be killed. If they both press blue, they'll both be in debt and both loved ones will be killed. Jude and Andy freak out as they insult the officiator, who doesn't look bothered. The discussion time begins and the guys don't know what to do, so Jude points out that being blind is better than being dead. The officiator decides to let the loved ones talk so they can make their case. Samuel only complains about the situation and tells Andy he loves him before he's gagged again. Henry says he can't go blind so young and he's getting married. He also points out Samuel has already lived a long life. Jude thinks that's a good point and Andy feels betrayed again since he wants double red. In the end, both players press blue because they're afraid the other will betray them. The henchman immediately kills Samuel and Henry by shooting them in the head. After the bodies are taken away, Kate and Heather are brought out for the next round. If both players choose red, they'll get $5 million to share and the women's tongues will be cut off. The other rules are the same as the last round, meaning the other 2 options end with 1 or 2 people dead. Andy apologizes to Kate before the officiator lets her make her case, so Kate tells Andy she loves him and that they can move past their problems. When it's Heather's turn, she reveals she's pregnant, yet this still doesn't get her freedom. The guys agree they'll choose red, however when the time comes Jude votes blue instead. The money is sent to Jude's account while Kate is shot in front of them. A crying Andy can't believe Jude betrayed him for a woman he only met a few months ago, and Jude points out Andy's relationship with Kate was almost over anyway. The officiator says there will be no more guests and when Andy says there's nobody else in his life she responds by mentioning Jude, only for Andy to spit on the ground. The next round is for $10 million. Double red gets them all the money to share and one eye burnt out. Voting different colors gets blue all the money and no damage, while red gets dead and both eyes burn out. Double blue gets them both killed. Since Andy doesn't have anything to live for anymore, he announces he's pressing blue. Jude freaks out but Andy shuts him up and points out he doesn't think the people behind this game will let them leave anyway. When time is over, both of them press red, which means Andy manipulated Jude to avoid another betrayal. While the money is sent to their accounts, the henchmen hold the guys down and burn an eye with burning metal bars, leaving the duo screaming in pain. The last round is for $20 million and Heather is brought back for it. Jude and Andy will have to play as a team against Heather, who now has red and blue cards so she can vote too. Andy will press the button for the men's team. If both sides choose red, they get the money to share and an eye burn out. If they pick different colors, blue gets the money and red gets killed. If everyone chooses blue, they all get killed. Obviously Andy and Heather want to pick red but after losing Kate, Andy is considering choosing blue so Heather gets killed in revenge. He also points out he can't trust a person they recently met and calls her a gold digger. Heather swears she loves Jude and that she'll choose red, so Andy agrees to match. However when the voting happens Heather chooses blue and Jude is devastated. She starts making excuses but Jude realizes she isn't actually pregnant and she's always chosen money. After Heather is taken away, Andy and Jude are shot at the table. Sometime later, the game from the beginning is happening. It's revealed that Heather is the officiator and all the employees played the game before. If a new group doesn't play until the end, then the previous players don't get the money they already earned.